Morning, everybody.
Morning.
Morning, everybody's shy today. We're all not seeing you, but welcome to the Cox and Kings Zoom event as part of my Keep Travel Alive series today. And today we're actually got the pleasure of being joined by two of Cox and Kings' finest. So we've got Simon Clifford, he's the product manager for Europe and Central Asia. And we have Mark Harris, who is the trade sales manager for Cox and Kings. So we're going to do a presentation and we'll have a questions and answers at the end for anybody who's got any questions for them. So I will pass over to, is it Simon first?
No, it's Mark first.
Mark, I'm going to pass you over to Mark first.
No problem at all. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today, and thanks Moira for organising this opportunity to run through some amazing tours with Cox and Kings. I'm very pleased to have Simon Clifford, who is our Europe product manager, who's put a lot of the tours, all of the tours together that we're going to be talking about today. So I'm very pleased to have his expertise with us as well. So I'm just going to do a bit of an introduction, hand over to Simon. So why book with Cox and Kings? First up, just going to run through our health and hygiene guidelines, which is obviously on point at the moment. We've got an amazing book with confidence message, and then we're going to talk about what to expect on an escorted group tour, and then the spotlight tours, which are European, so a great opportunity to get traveling again, and then other types of Cox holidays with Cox and Kings. And then if you've got any questions, we'll run through those towards the end. So why book with Cox and Kings? It's actually the longest established travel company. So it's been around many, many years, dates back to the 21st of July, 1758, in fact, just to be precise. And they've been operating tours worldwide travel since 1986. We have dedicated teams of regional experts. So when Moira calls into the C&K team on behalf of Miles Morgan, we have the appropriate experts to be able to help through the inquiry that you have. We're a big company value with award-winning services. Of course, we're completely bonded, and that goes in line with Miles Morgan as well. Of course, also ABTA bonded as well. Sustainable and responsible travel. So we have some philanthropy projects that we do fold into, which is on behalf of our parent company, which is Abercrombie & Kent. So Abercrombie & Kent acquired Cox & Kings business brand name towards the end of 2019, and very much a part of our family, which in turn folds into our DMC network of Abercrombie & Kent, which are 55 local offices worldwide. So DMC meaning destination management means that everything on the ground is facilitated by our own team rather than using a third party. So we're very on point with local tourist boards and governments. So obviously during this whole pandemic, it's been great to be able to ensure safety, and if there's any issues, we could move quickly or act quickly as well. So all part of that. So just a little bit more about the health and hygiene. Of course, having our own DMC makes us in line to ensure that everything runs very smoothly, and we're COVID safe, as they're calling it now. So long-standing relationships with local network of partners behind the scenes is obviously what I'm just relaying to with local government and tourist boards. So yeah, rest assured, we're doing all we can to ensure your safety whilst you're traveling away with us. One of the main things with Cox and Kings is that our group sizes are not large. We average 14 in our groups to a maximum of 18, but the spotlight tours that Simon's going to be talking about are actually maximum 14 as well. So small groups is key, and that's what we like to continue with. So the book with confidence message. So if you go to Moira and you make a booking through us at Cox and Kings, Moira is safe in the knowledge that we'll look after her client, yourself, with our book with confidence message, which basically allows you to make any changes or amendments up to 15 days prior to the scheduled departure. So that's industry leading. Many other suppliers are sort of 30 to 45 days prior. So we just want to give you assurance that we will certainly act if we need to change your holiday over. Been a lot of that going on recently. We know of clients that have had to change 3, 4, 5, even 10 times during this whole pandemic. I'm sure Moira can relate to that most definitely. Also, just With regard to the deposit, we've introduced £100 per person deposit on Europe and Middle East, which includes the spotlight tours that we're going to be talking about. So you're not actually shelling out too much in the beginning. So with when things do open up, it's going to be very busy. So availability is going to be quite low on certain destinations and certain tours. So it's best to get something confirmed and booked, and you know you've got this confidence, but with confidence policy behind you as well. So you're not shelling out as much on the deposit with £100 or £150 if it's a worldwide, one of our worldwide tours. I'm going to skip this slide because we're waiting news on the traffic light system, and I don't want to go into that too much. We're eagerly waiting some announcements today and tomorrow from the government of where we can travel to. So what to expect? I've already mentioned our small group sizes, so average 14 to a maximum of 18. We do have departure dates on sale now for 2023. So if you're still not confident traveling this towards the end of this year or into 2022, maybe look at getting something booked for 23. We do have some dedicated solo traveller tours as well now, but if you look at any of our group tours, there's no single supplement on the first 3 places for each of the tours. So again, that's sort of creating some urgency for you to get yourselves booked in there. We have local tour managers. I've mentioned our destination management is all our own staff, so it's all local people that we employ, and they facilitate the journeys.
So just to run through the tours, I'm going to sort of bombard you a bit with some information here, but there'll probably be some destinations that are of more interest to you. So first of all, we have the spotlight on the Azores, which starts from 1695. So why the Azores? Well, it's a region of Portugal, as you probably know. Islands in the Atlantic. They are a popular tourist destination, but not massively popular. They don't receive any like the numbers that you get on the Canaries or Madeira or even Iceland, which has a similar sort of topography in some ways to the Azores in that they are volcanic islands. It also has quite a unique culture, and I think it's a great destination. You can get there via Portugal, via mainland Portugal, that is, via Lisbon or Porto, and the connections are good. So to run through the itinerary, you'll see the itineraries that we run on the Spotlight tours are all quite similar, in that, as we mentioned, you are centre-based at one hotel for the week. Then we do day excursions each day. And on each of these days, usually be a full day, including lunch. And then we also usually include one free day. So that's time to either relax at the hotel or explore independently. So I'll run through some of this, not day by day, because it's just too much information for you. But for example, on this tour, you have a guided city tour of Ponta Delgada and its unique volcanic architecture. And then a full day excursion around the main island of San Miguel, including visits to the geothermal lakes, the botanical gardens, and the tea plantation. And just to mention on this, so the tea plantation is one of our signature experiences. On each of our tours, we run the signature experiences. These are excursions that aren't offered on similar tours with other operators, and they aren't necessarily anything massive, but there's something small that just adds something a bit unique to the tour. So the Azores is one of the few places in Europe where they actually cultivate tea. So you will go and have some time picking the tea with the pickers, and then obviously have a brew at the end. And then also on this tour, we have a Jeep safari, and then much like Iceland, the Azores is really well known for whale and dolphin safaris. So you'll go out on a rib boat for a safari, and then you have a free day in Ponta Delgada. So as we mentioned, the signature experiences on each tour are quite different. So for this one, we'll visit a gin distillery. You've got the tea plantations, which I mentioned, and then we also visit a historic cheese farm and do a cheese tasting with wine. So moving on to the accommodation. Now, if any of you have travelled with Cox and Kings before, you'll know that we really strive, especially in Europe, to offer good locations, relatively small properties, usually between sort of anything under 100 rooms. And I always try to aim for privately owned hotels because I feel they give our tours a bit more character. You'll meet some more local people. But for these tours, we were quite aware that clients would be staying in a property for a whole week. And if you're doing that, then you're probably going to want a bit more space. So we've tried to offer slightly larger hotels with swimming pools and gardens. These aren't sort of 500-room big resort hotels with kids clubs and all this sort of thing. They're still small properties, but they're just slightly larger than the Cox and Kings norm. And the reason, like I said, is so you've got a bit more space, gardens, maybe an outdoor restaurant, an outdoor cafe, and just gives people a bit more space to relax. Okay, so our second tour is the Spotlight on the Basque region, which starts at 1595. This is a region that we've seen grow in popularity over the years. Bilbao is the main city where you'll be based. But the great thing about the Basque country is it's got a really good infrastructure. Spain's getting quite well known now for having excellent motorways. And it does mean that we can cover quite a large area of the coastline and inland in 1 week and still be based in Bilbao. And of course, the Basque region is known for its very unique culture and its cuisine. So on this tour, we visit Bilbao. We have a full guided tour, including the famous Guggenheim Museum. And you also do a food tour there. And we do another day visit to San Sebastian with a ride on the funicular railway, which is one of the signature experiences. And then we have a great day going along the coast. The coast of northern Spain is obviously very different from the southern Spanish coast that you're maybe more familiar with, of the big white sort of sand beaches. It's much more rugged. The Bay of Biscay is known for being quite stormy, and the geography reflects that. So it's a really nice way to see a very different Spain. And then we also travel in the afternoon inland into sort of the rural heartland of the Basque region and visit a cheese farm there. So if you like cheese, come on a Spotlight tour. And then we have a free day where you may just want to relax in Bilbao, or we can arrange a wine tasting tour. And then on our final day, we go to Burgos, which is actually outside the Basque region, but it's a UNESCO World Heritage City. It's particularly famous for its cathedral, and we feel that although it's not in Basque, it's a great city to see. And then on day 7, we return to the UK. So just to highlight, the signature experiences on this tour are the historic cheese farm up in the hills, the historic San Sebastian funicular railway, and then the Pictos tour in Bilbao. And then here we are in the city. The hotel is a bit smaller, so not quite as large as the property I showed you for the Azores, but it's centre-based, really good location, lovely restaurant, street cafe, and it's a really good just to get out and wander around and explore Bilbao. So our next tour is Malta, and this starts slightly cheaper at 1395 per person. Malta is, we are hoping, fingers crossed this afternoon, is going on the green list for UK travellers. We were obviously hoping this was going to happen a few weeks ago, and we got a lot of interest in this tour. And we already have some guaranteed departures for September. So I think this is one that's going to really be of interest to people. You've also got great regional connections. I know most of you are based up in Scotland, and there are direct flights for Malta, I believe. So it's great for anyone living outside of the sort of London region. You've got the direct flights there. And something that Malta is really trying to do. So I think for many years we associated Malta with a big beach hotel, fly and flop, as we call them in the travel industry, where you just go, sit on the beach, go to a restaurant in the evening, and it's a sort of standard package holiday. But Malta has so much to offer. It's deeply historical. It's kind of on the crossroads of the Mediterranean. And for a cultural tour with Cox and Kings, you're going to get a very different view of this island. So you obviously arrive in Malta on day 1. We do a walking tour with lunch in Valletta, which is the capital, one of the smallest capitals in the world. It's walled and deeply historical. Day 3, we visit the 3 cities that border onto Valletta. And this is done in an electric buggy, which I'm going to show you in the signature experiences slide. But it adds something a bit fun to this tour, makes it really quite unique. You've got day 4 is a day to relax. You might want to go to the beach on that day. Then day 5, we visit Malta's younger cousin over on Gozo, the small island there, and our tour is by tuk-tuk. And then on day 6 is another sort of historical day where we visit the ancient temples, visit the Blue Grotto by boat, and go to Muscherslok, which is famous for the colourful fishing boats, which are such an icon of Malta. So on this tour, I just mentioned there the signature experiences, and I think these are best described on this slide. So these electric buggies, which you can see in the bottom picture there, are a bit like a golf cart. If you can drive a golf cart, you can drive one of these buggies. And the Scots, I know, are quite good at golf, so you should be fine. And the way these work, there's a lead golf buggy, which the guide drives, and then if anyone doesn't want to drive, they can sit in the lead car with him. Then there's a GPS and an iPad at the front of the buggy, and you simply follow the driver in front of you. And it's a bit like sort of driving, yeah, like I said, driving the golf cart. But what this gives us is a great opportunity to visit the narrow streets of the old town and cover a larger area than you would really be able to on foot. And it's just quite fun. And then we also do a boat tour on the in the traditional Maltese fishing boats on the Grand Harbour. And as I mentioned, you've got the tuk-tuk tour, which you do not drive yourself because there is wine tasting along the way. And our hotel here is the Waterfront Hotel based in Slima, which is just along the coast from Valletta itself and the Grand Harbour. As you can see, we've got a pool, swimming platform. There's no beach. You just go straight down into the water, a bit like you would in many properties in Croatia. But the rooms are fresh and modern. There's a lovely restaurant and lots of other choices of bars and restaurants along the promenade. So our next tour is the spotlight on Veneto region of northern Italy, which starts at 1795. So interestingly, with this region of Italy, obviously home to Venice, 90% of all tourists that go to this region only visit Venice. And there's so much more to offer. What I love about this spotlight tour is that we've got a real mixture here of some ancient walled cities, ancient towns, and culinary experiences, some introduction into rural Italy as well. So it's a really nice mix, but still based in centre base. Sorry, getting a bit tongue-tied going through all these. So the itinerary of this one, you fly into Verona, but you can also fly very easily into Venice and Milan, and they're all kind of equidistant from the town that we stay in, which is Castelfranco Veneto, which probably you haven't heard of, but it's a very small historical walled town in the region, and it's about 40 minutes by direct train to Venice. You are based there, and then on day 2, we visit Padua and a winery. So Padua is a famous university town in the region and has the canal that runs to Venice. Then day 3, we visit, it's a more rural day. You include Lake Garda, and then we have a risotto cooking class. Day 4 is a free day. We have arranged for anyone who wants to visit Venice by train. So you simply we arrange that you jump on the train at Castelfranco, and it's 40 minutes to Venice, and then a guide will meet you the other end, and you'll have a walking tour of Venice, but that is optional. Day 5 is quite a busy cultural day. We visit Verona and Vicenza, which is famous for its Palladia villas. Then day 6 is an important day, because day 6 we visit the Prosecco Hills and visit some of the wineries there. And then visit one of the largest Palladio villas, Villa Emo, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And then in day 6, we go up towards the foothills of the Alps, which is the northernmost part of the Veneto region, and visit the town of Grappa, which is famous for the wine there as well. So it's a really nice mix. So just to mention, pointing out the signature experiences, you'll have the risotto cooking class, 2 wine tastings in the Prosecco Hills, a visit to Grappa, and then the UNESCO Palladia Villa. And this one, again, as mentioned, the hotel, a lovely, fresh, modern property right in the heart of the old town. You can see the walls from the windows of the hotel. There is a small rooftop terrace. No pool here, but you know, obviously you are right in the heart of a 14th century town. But you're in a great location for visiting bars and restaurants just outside the hotel. So I'll spotlight on Slovenia, which starts at 1545. So Slovenia is a new destination for us, but we have seen a lot of private tailor-made touring here for clients. It's somewhere that we're seeing become a lot more popular. It's a very safe, stable country, and beautiful alpine scenery, but sort of half the price of what you pay in Switzerland. There are direct flights from London, so you can either go via London, but there are also really good connections with the likes of KLM, Lufthansa, Austrian Airlines do daily flights as well. So from Scotland and from the north, you've got really quite easy connections through mainland Europe. So I think I've mentioned some of the reasons why you might visit Slovenia. Again, this is a nice one where we've tried to get a mix of some historic towns, some culinary experiences, and being up in the Julian Alps, which is the furthest corner of the Alps. So our tour here is based in Ljubljana, which is the capital. We do a guided tour of the city, including a river cruise and a visit to the castle, which is a sort of icon of Ljubljana itself. And day 3 is a beautiful day in the sort of foothills of the mountains. We visit Lake Bled, which is behind me, not my picture, but Lake Bled is one of the most iconic views in Europe. This beautiful small lake with the church on the island. And then we visit Lake Bochine as well, which is nothing like as built up as Lake Bled. Beautiful, more sort of abandoned landscape. And we do the cable car ride up to the mountain and have lunch. Day 4 is a free day. We do have some optional excursions on that day. Then day 5 is quite interesting. So you're based back in Ljubljana, and we do a beekeeping tour. And the beekeeping is a great tradition in Slovenia. And you will visit loads of the just regular buildings, apartment buildings, office buildings have beehives on the top. So we'll visit and see the city from the rooftops. And then you'll visit the beekeeping and learn about the beekeeping culture in Slovenia. Then day 6 is a full day to the Poštenice caves, and then Piran, which is a beautiful Venetian town on the coast of Slovenia. And we finish this tour with the JB restaurant, which we are hoping by the time we have the first departure will have its first Michelin star. And then day 7, we return to the UK. So highlighting the signature experiences here is the beekeeping tour, the farewell dinner at what we were hoping will be gourmet, and then the historic food tour in the market in Ljubljana, and then a private tour of the Poštenice caves. And our hotel here is the BW Slon, which is one of the sort of grand old properties, grand old hotels of Ljubljana. It's just been refitted last year. So you've got lovely parquet flooring, lovely sort of historical cafe, which is famous in Ljubljana itself, really lovely homemade cakes. And again, a lovely terrace out onto the pavement, the pedestrianised street that it sits on. So it's a great location in the heart of the city. 2 more, I'm nearly there. So Greece. Our Spotlight on Athens and Avia tour starts at 1395. Greece is a real staple for Cox Kings. It's always sold well. You can have a great mixture here of sitting on a beach and doing nothing. You can go to the islands. It's just a wonderful, wonderful country. But what we wanted to do here was really try and open up somewhere that people may not have heard of. Avia is in fact the 2nd largest Greek island after Athens. You might not have heard of it. It's right off the coast after Athens, after Crete. So Crete is the largest island, but this Avia is just off the coast near Athens. And it's actually connected by a bridge. So there's no worries about ferries for the crossing. and it's only a 90-minute drive from Athens Airport, but you get the island experience, as you can see from this top picture, that sort of azure blue that we associate with Greece. But it does mean that you get the sort of mix of culture and beach. So the tour, as we mentioned, it's 80 minutes transfer to Avia itself from Athens Airport. So day 2, we have a tour of historic Halkida, which is the main town on the island, and a free afternoon. Day 3 is a full day sailing the Straits of Avia. So the Straits, because it's obviously a narrow passage between Avia and the mainland. And then that's your typical boat tour that you would do on any of the Greek islands. So it's a sailing boat, includes a barbecue lunch, you'll moor up, swim, visit the beach, just the sort of thing you would expect on an island holiday in Greece. Day 4 is a day at leisure. The hotel, as I will show you, you will see is somewhere that you ideally want to just happily spend a day in. Then day 5, we visit more of the island. So the island's quite rugged and quite mountainous inland, but it's also got wonderful vineyards. So we'll see we'll go wine tasting and see some of the vineyards. And then day 6 is Athens. So it's a full day, very easy excursion from the island. So it's a full day tour, including the Acropolis, the museum. And then we do a coffee workshop as well. So we visit one of the historic cafes in the heart of Athens, and you'll learn how to make a traditional coffee. So the highlights here, you've got the sailing tour, the coffee and cakes in historic coffee house in Athens, and then the wine tasting in Avia itself. So this is the hotel that we use. It's actually a 5-star property. Just to mention as well, this tour is quite unique in that it's also half board. So the hotel isn't in the town itself, so we include the half board, but you can see you've got a great big pool. It's right on the sea. It's got its own private beach with sun loungers. So a great hotel to just spend some time in, and the free day you probably want to fly. And finally, we've got our spotlight on Aegean Turkey. This we set up back in September. So back then we were obviously hoping that Turkey, well, the red list didn't even exist. We remember those days. But this is a great value tour, 1295. We already have dates for next year as well. So this might be somewhere to consider for next year. Again, it's a really nice mix of rural relaxation and then visiting some of the amazing historical sites of the Turkish coast. So that's an old slide I need to remove. So you fly into Izmir. I think there are quite good regional connections with some of the charter airlines for Turkey. Day 2, we have a private tour of Ephesus, which I'll go into a bit more detail when I mention the signature experiences, but we've got something quite different there. Day 3, we visit the winery. Turkey, not somewhere we would immediately associate with wine producing, but it does, and we will get to learn a little bit about that and how it sort of fits in with their culture. Day 2, we visit the famous salt region of Pamukkale and Hierapolis. And then day 5 is a relaxing day in Serince. Serince is the village where we stay. And day 6, another cultural day to Digima, the Greek ruins there. And then day 7, we visit Kudunasi, which is a seaside town, and have a traditional Turkish bath experience. So to mention here with the highlights, we mentioned the winery, and then the Turkish bath experience, if you're up for a hard scrub. I've done one of these, and it's one of these things that when you look back on it, it's fun. And then in Ephesus, we use a virtual reality tour. So this is quite new. I went and actually experienced this in 2018. And as you know, it's a huge historical site in Turkey, one of the most famous sites in the world, from the classical world. And here you will don 3D, it's not a full headset, but it's a kind of mask that you wear around your face. And as you walk around, you'll go into places like the famous library or even just the main street, and it brings the whole way of life to life. So you will be able to look around 3D, up, down, left, right, and see what these buildings look like in their heyday. And it really brings some what are really ruins to life. And you really see like how colorful it was, and how people lived in this. And then the headsets you simply take on and off. So you're not sort of walking around with it all the time, but it really brings that culture to life. And then, so to mention the accommodation here, we stay in as I mentioned, the town of Serince, which is actually very famous for, it was originally a Greek village. And when there was the cultural swap, the population swap between Greece and Turkey after the First World War, the Greeks had to leave the town and the Turks came and lived there. So it's a real mixture of Greek and Turkish architecture and culture. We stay in a lovely historical old townhouse here with an amazing terrace overlooking the valley where you have breakfast, and all the rooms are uniquely decorated. You've got antique furniture, and yeah, it's run by a local family. So you get a real Turkish experience here. And that is the end. It's quite a lot of information. I'm quite aware of that. But Moira will send you all the links to any of the tours that you might be interested in. And I think Mark is going to just cover very quickly some of our other classic Greek tours.
Thank you, Simon. Very good. Certainly the expert always uses knowledge and history and culture. Love it. Thank you, much appreciated. But yeah, just obviously synonymous, Cox and Kings synonymous with group touring. I've mentioned this in the beginning. We also have our solo tours. We have art and culture expert-led tours. Tailor-made, I've also mentioned. So again, speak to Moira about those. Rail journeys, and also we have some cruise options as well. In terms of our top 10 group tours, this relates back to 2019, of course, because nothing went last year really. So India, very synonymous with the Indian subcontinent. So the Golden Triangle and Shimla is our most popular tour, followed closely by Sri Lanka, Enchanted Island, and then Latin America with Peru and Machu Picchu, which includes the train. We've got Classic Russia, which was our top selling European tour. But Simon's hoping these spotlight tours will overtake that moving forward. There's some great options. The Grand Tour of South America, Splendors of Jordan, and then of course we have Africa with the safaris. One of my favorite countries in the world is Japan. So we've got the Cultural Treasures tour of Japan, and then we also have Classic Sicily. So those are our top selling tours through Cox and Kings. So I'm just going to hand over to Moira. If there's any questions from you guys, feel free to ask myself or Simon.
Hi, everybody. Oh, that was great. Simon, Mark, I really enjoyed it. It's amazing. I've been making lots of notes because I find these things are really good because the European thing, I'll be honest with you, I'd not forgotten about, but you know, it's going to be where I think a lot of people are going to be going, certainly this year. Rather than, you know, sort of potentially risking going further afield at the moment. So your ones like Malta and that are going to be really good because there is an appetite. People want to travel. There's absolutely no doubt about that whatsoever. And it's, you know, and it's going to be places like that you've done these spotlight tours. And I think what I think is amazing is I think the prices are absolutely brilliant for all that's included. You've done an amazing job because of those, you know, those experiences that you're getting, and the standard of the hotels you could see are really high. So yeah, no, I think that's really exciting. And of course, not forgetting all the Japan and the India, which are very famous for, and they will come back. It may be next year, obviously, before the longer haul stuff. But yeah, over to anybody. Got any questions for Simon or Mark? I think Bill?
Yeah, just learning how to unmute myself. I've got a couple of general questions and then perhaps slightly more specific questions. My general questions are based purely on being a solo traveller. Obviously, I would be interested in your solo travel packages and things. So I think I've agreed to get something from Cox and Kings on that. But in general, when you put up your prices, most of the things that you've been showing up to now, those are prices, I assume are prices per person based on 2 people traveling together. So what is your position when it comes to what additions there would be on the packages you've shown for a solo traveller? What would the additions be? That's the first question. Okay. Second question, general, is about the travelling. Coming from Scotland, a lot of what you were showing does the prices you have, do they actually include all air flights, or is it the flights from London, and are there connecting flights from Scotland, and would those be additional extras that would have to be paid? So that's the second kind of area. And the third area, and it follows from flights, etc. Going on holiday, I'm not wildly keen personally, spending a day flying and travelling to get to someplace, spend 5 days, and then come back again. That a lot of that time is taken up with travelling. So quite often, if I do go on a holiday, I would like to extend it a bit and add on some extra days. So what is your attitude towards extensions and adding on days to your kind of holidays? So that's the third thing. And the fourth thing I would like to ask about, basically you've talked about meals. I assume all your packages, it's always breakfast. There may occasionally be lunch, but that's not always certain. There may once in a while be a dinner. Is it general that it's always lunch, occasionally other things, and people are free to then arrange their own meals for themselves? Sorry, that's 4 different questions there, and I hope you don't mind me trying to ask them at the same time. Thanks.
I think with that is that Mark can probably talk about the general with the solos and things, and then I'll maybe talk a bit about the decisions we come to in terms of meals and flights and extensions. But Mark, you know a bit more about the no single supplements and things like that, don't you?
Yeah, so every tour, I mentioned there's the first 3 places per tour is actually, there's no single supplement on those, and those go for the spotlight tours as well. If you were to miss out on those, we do try and keep single supplements down to a minimum, because I appreciate it's certainly not double. It's between 30 and 40% roughly of the per person price that you would have seen. The solos tours, that specific solos, obviously there's no supplement, those are priced as a solo journey. I'll send those over to Moira so you can have a chat with her about those afterwards, Moira, if that's all right. So that was the solos. Sorry, there's a few questions. Meals is breakfast, yes, included. And then obviously, for example, one of the tours that Simon mentions, half board, you always get your dinner. I think with touring, I've worked for an operator that was fully inclusive, so all meals, breakfast, lunch, dinner a day. But it kind of, you didn't really get that flexibility, because some people, you might want to go off and find your own cuisine for the evening, for example, or you know, have a bit more flexibility on that for when you're out and about and lunch wise. You know, so I think it just adds that a bit more sort of flexibility during the tour when it comes to the food.
I was gonna say on that, I'm the one that actually puts these tours together. And my general rule when putting a tour together is, if there's one place to eat, so if you're out in the Prosecco Hills, for example, in Italy, and you visit the winery, and that's where you are at lunchtime, if that's the only place to eat, then lunch is included. But if you even if we're in a small village and there's maybe 2 places to eat, then I won't include it, because some people might want to just get a snack from the supermarket, but then there are other people who will want a full sit-down dining experience. So we keep it flexible. But if it's, you know, if you're, say, at a winery or in a small hilltop town and there's only one place to eat, then we include that. Because otherwise you just turn around like, oh, by the way, guys, you know, this is the restaurant and sorry, it's 30 euros a head. That's not really very fair. So that's with all the Europe tours, that's the general rule. There might be the very odd exception, but I know on the spotlight tours there isn't. So that's the rule with that. And I just wanted to point out with the solo travellers is that all our solo travellers will get a double room as standard. So I know I used to work in a previous life for a more adventurous travel company, doing like hiking and biking and all that sort of stuff. So you were often in smaller hotels, and then the solo travellers would get like the attic room in a single bed, and that's just not fair. So, you know, especially as you're paying more than the people who are paying in a double room. So all the, whenever you travel at Cox Kings, you have a double room for sole use. I just wanted to mention that as well.
And then it was the regional flights, where we can. Obviously, flight schedules are all over the place at the moment, and they were up with scheduling and airlines and change things. But where we can, if we get a flight direct from Glasgow, for example, then that's absolutely fine. If it's a case that the only one we can get is London, then yeah, the regional add-ons, they are at extra cost. Which obviously Moira will find out for you, but yeah, where possible, we'll get departures from your local airports directly to the destination of your choice. But other than that, yeah, it's additional costs for regional flights. It's always the case, really. I don't know anyone that would include those.
Yeah, I would just say on this that, you know, we have to put a from price on there, and you know, elephant in the room here is that majority of people are traveling from a London airport. So that's what we use. But what I've really tried with these tours is keeping the regions in mind, because I'm very aware that there are people traveling from Scotland, from Manchester, from Bristol, and they don't want to come to London. So quite a few of the tours that I've tried to include places that you can still get direct flights. Moira will probably tell me this is rubbish, but I have a feeling that there are direct flights to places like Malta, Turkey, Greece. So I'm sort of hoping that we've done some tours where, okay, yes, the price on the website isn't quite right because we include flights from London, but we can at least get you a direct flight.
Yeah, would you use just you know, Simon, would you use like charter flights? Would you use like Jet2 or EasyJet, for example?
Yeah, I mean, mentioning that, actually, the Ryanair and the Azores flights, we base them on the flight from Lisbon, but there is talk that, so Ryanair started a direct flight from Stansted to Ponta Delgada, but it never kind of got off the ground because they started it and then COVID hit and then it disappeared, like all these schedules. But we're hoping they're going to bring that back for next year. So, you know, yes, we'd rather use TAP Air Portugal via Lisbon because that's more our kind of airline. But if there's a direct flight with Ryanair, then, and people want it, then we'll use it. If people want those flights, like yes, Jet2, I know for Greece and Turkey and stuff is quite big from Scotland. So yeah, absolutely, yeah, we'd still use them.
Perfect. Oh, that's great. Yeah, good. That's great. Oh, well, listen, anybody else got any questions? I think Bill's done really well. Bill, you've asked.
Bill, did we cover all your questions? I feel there was something else.
Yeah, there was one other small thing. I mentioned the idea of the length of time I'm actually on holiday. I question, is it possible to add on a few other days somewhere else? Because to me, going away 2 days out of 7 traveling, I like the idea of adding on a bit on one end or the other just to make it a bit more of an actual holiday in the event rather than spending so much time traveling.
Well, that ties in a bit with what Moira was saying, in that we can use any airline. So all behind the scenes, our end, the package that we put together is with a local operator. So the flights is always something separate. So if you wanted to stay 1 more night, 2 more nights, 3 more weeks, it makes absolutely no difference. So we could keep you in the same hotel, but if, for example, I know like the Venice, you might want to then add on in the Spotlight in Veneto tour, for example, you might want to add on 3 nights in Venice, so not stay at the group hotel. We can do that, that's no problem. And also to mention, which I didn't, I'd be told off if I didn't do this in front of my boss, but the spotlight tours, at least one departure will coincide with other group tours. So for example, the spotlight tour in Veneto can be, you could do a second week and do the spotlight tour in Slovenia. So we've put the tours that are close together back to back. So you could always add an additional tour onto the first tour as well. So we do both. So you can do your own thing, or you could even add another Cox and Kings tour on at the end of one of the other tours. If that makes sense.
Interesting. Yeah, that's good that you could do that. Yeah, brilliant. And any more questions? Anybody? Bill, is that all yours? I think. Anybody else got any more questions? Speak now. Yeah, no. Well, guys, that looks like, well, honestly, that was brilliant, and lots there to look at, and lots really interesting. I think great that you've decided to do a lot more in Europe at the moment, you know, and hopefully they'll be so successful that going forward you'll keep it.
Yeah, just to mention that as well. I mean, obviously not many traveling at the moment, but the feedback from these has been really good, and we are starting work on some new product for 22-23, and there is the idea this will become part of the Cox and Kings program, just like the solo tours or the arts and culture tours. So it is staying. This isn't just a knee-jerk reaction because we need to do something because people aren't traveling, and people need something different. This is something that we are hoping will build and become a proper, long-established section of the Cox and Kings program.
Yeah, great. Oh no, well, they're really good. Oh well, thank you for your time today. Thank you to everybody for coming along.
Thank you
again, and see you all soon.
Thanks
Bye.
again.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.